A locksmith in your town just turned down 11 times what you paid for your house. Not a real estate deal. A stranger walked into a shop and offered him $2.4 million to buy the business outright, and he said no. Not because the offer was too low, because he'd rather lock the door, keep the machine keys exactly where they are, and let the whole thing sit there quietly depreciating into nothing, than deal with the hassle of selling it to someone he'd have to trust. That decision, multiplied across millions of small businesses in America right now, is about to hand an entire generation of ordinary people an opportunity that has nothing to do with inheritance, nothing to do with the stock market, and almost nothing to do with luck. My name is Daniel, and what I'm about to walk you through is the quiet economic event happening underneath the headlines, one that most people are going to miss completely, and a small number of people are about to get very comfortable off of. Here's the thing nobody explains to you about how wealth actually moves through an economy. You've probably heard the phrase, the great wealth transfer, thrown around, usually attached to some enormous number like 80 or $100 trillion, framed as this tidal wave of inheritance about to lift up everyone under 50. That story is mostly noise. Most of that money either goes to people who are already wealthy, gets eaten by long-term care costs, or sits frozen in a house that doesn't sell for years. But there's a second, much quieter transfer happening at the exact same time, and this one isn't about who your parents are, it's about who's willing to show up. Think about the businesses you drive past every single day without noticing them. The HVAC company with the faded logo on the truck, the family-run accounting firm above the pizza place, the small manufacturing shop on the edge of your town that makes some obscure part nobody's ever heard of but every local contractor depends on. These businesses are, on average, run by people in their 60s, and here's what's strange when you actually look at the data. The majority of these owners have no succession plan, not a rough one, not a bad one, none at all. They built something profitable over 30 or 40 years, and they never once wrote down what happens to it when they're gone. This is where it gets interesting, because you'd assume a profitable business with real customers and real cash flow would just naturally get sold. That's what would happen with a stock, or a piece of real estate, or basically any other asset. But small businesses don't behave like assets. They behave like extensions of a person's identity. Selling the business means admitting you're not the guy who built it anymore. It means letting a stranger touch the thing that defined you for 4 decades. So instead of selling, a huge share of these owners just quietly stop. They stop taking new clients, they let the equipment age out, and eventually they either close the doors for good or run it into the ground so slowly that by the time it changes hands, if it ever does, there's nothing left worth having. Now here's the part that should actually change how you think about your own next 10 years. Because that business the locksmith wouldn't sell, the one worth over $2 million, that's not some rare unicorn. Businesses that size, generating consistent 6-figure profit for the owner, routinely sell for 2 to 3 times their annual cash flow. That means a business quietly producing $150,000 a year for its owner can often be purchased for something in the range of $400,000 to $450,000. And this is where most people's brains shut off, because they hear that number and think, I don't have $450,000 lying around. But you don't need it. The Small Business Administration will finance up to 90% of that purchase through a 7A loan, which means your actual out-of-pocket cash to control a business generating $150,000 a year could be somewhere around $40,000 to $45,000. Compare that to buying a home in most major metro areas right now, where a 20% down payment alone can run past $80,000 before you've paid a single mortgage bill. Let's actually sit with that math for a second, because this is where the illusion breaks. If you wanted that same $150,000 a year showing up in your bank account from index fund dividends and withdrawals using the standard 4% rule, you would need roughly $3.75 million sitting in a brokerage account. At the median American household savings rate, that's not a 10-year goal. That's not even a 30-year goal for most people. It's a fantasy number that financial content likes to dangle in front of you because it sounds motivating, right up until you do the arithmetic on how long it would actually take at your current income. Meanwhile, the business next door is offering something close to that same annual income for around 1% of that required nest egg, financed, with cash flow starting almost immediately instead of decades from now. Here's what's interesting about why this opportunity even exists in the first place, and this is the psychological piece that most people skip over. Boomers built an entire identity around ownership and independence, the idea that you work hard, you build something, and you don't ask anyone for help. That mindset built incredible businesses, but it also means that same generation is emotionally allergic to succession planning, because succession planning requires admitting the business will outlive your involvement in it. There's a strange kind of grief wrapped up in handing over the keys, and most owners avoid that grief the same way people avoid writing a will, not because they don't understand the stakes, but because doing the paperwork forces them to look directly at their own ending. That avoidance, multiplied across an entire generation, is what's about to release hundreds of thousands of profitable, cash-flowing businesses into the hands of whoever's paying attention. I want to ask you something, and I actually want to know the answer, so drop it in the comments. If you found out tomorrow that a profitable local business near you was about to close simply because the owner had no one to hand it to, would you seriously consider stepping in? Or does that idea feel completely outside how you picture your own life playing out? I ask because the honest answer for most people is that it feels foreign, almost illegal, like buying a business is something reserved for people with MBAs and rich uncles. That belief is doing more damage to your future net worth than almost any bad financial decision you could make with a credit card. Before I keep going, if this kind of thing, the psychology behind money, and the quiet opportunities most people scroll straight past, is something you want more of, go ahead and subscribe now, because this channel exists specifically to pull these patterns apart before they become common knowledge and the advantage disappears. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you this is free money, because it isn't, and anyone who tells you buying a small business is passive income is lying to you or has never done it. An SBA loan comes with a personal guarantee, which means if the business underperforms, that debt follows you personally, not just the business entity. Some of these businesses are successful specifically because of the owner's relationships and reputation, and if that person walks away, a meaningful chunk of the customer base can walk away with them within months. This isn't a lottery ticket, it's a job, a demanding one with leverage attached to it, and leverage without preparation is how people lose houses, not build them. Anyone seriously considering this needs real due diligence, a real accountant, and enough cash reserve to survive a rough first year, not just enthusiasm from a YouTube video. But here's the realization that actually matters, the one that should sit with you longer than any of the numbers I just gave you. For the last 2 decades, financial advice has told an entire generation that the only respectable path to wealth is index funds, patience, and waiting 30 or 40 years for compounding to eventually make you comfortable. That advice isn't wrong, but it's incomplete, because it was written for a world where the businesses around you weren't quietly shutting their doors due to nothing more than an unplanned exit. The people who end up ahead the next decade won't necessarily be the ones who saved the most aggressively. They'll be the ones who noticed that ownership was sitting right there, undervalued, unclaimed, and mostly ignored because nobody told them it was allowed. So before you close this video and go back to checking your 401k balance for the 4th time today, I want you to think about the businesses you actually interact with in your own life, the ones run by someone clearly past retirement age, the ones that feel like they've been the same for 20 years. Somewhere in that list is probably a version of that locksmith, sitting on something worth far more than they've ever admitted out loud, with absolutely no plan for what happens next. If you found value in this, subscribe so you don't miss where this conversation goes next. And I'll leave you with this. What's the one business in your own town that you'd never expect to be for sale? And what would it actually take for you to be the one who asks?